And I share my screen. Okay. So elevating your personal brand through public speaking and storytelling. My screen is paused. Why is that? Power of technology, huh? Just gonna hit that again. Perfect. You can all see my screen now. Awesome. Let's get going. Okay, so I have a question for you. What are you most afraid of? I actually use Slido in my presentations to make this interactive, but I would love for you to come into the chat box and tell me, are you scared of bugs? Are you scared of public speaking? Are you scared of flying? What are you scared of? Because when I do this on a poll, it's quite interesting what actually comes up the most. So type in the chat box, what are you most afraid of? I would love to hear. I'll give you just 10 more seconds to type away and then come in and let's see what everyone's typing away in the chat box. Lack of engagement. Oh, well, these, okay, getting ridiculed on stage, judgment, forgetting some topics. We're going to talk about that. Losing my thoughts. Brilliant to remember content. Interesting. Okay, public speaking in general. That's great. Running out of time when people get bored, content not being good enough. Okay, these are really good things actually, because maybe next time I can create some content around maybe tackling content not being good enough. But I think you're going to get some really good tips when it comes to the UPBS and how to implement that into public speaking. Okay, really good. Thanks for being so engaging, everyone. I really do like asking questions so we can all find out. Okay, so I want to head into sort of why public speaking is so good for your personal brand. Over the years, so in business, when I've been doing public speaking and storytelling, or even public speaking in general, years ago when I first started my business, I realized it was a really powerful tool for sales without trying to sell. And then when I started to realize that you could engage with more people, one to many rather than one to one, this was another massive tick box for me when it came to growing my brand and credibility. So there's so many reasons why. I've kind of put a few down here when it comes to why it could be good. Establishes your authority and credibility. So especially when you're working with maybe collaborations, I remember one of my very big kind of first collaborations I did was with Harvey Nichols. And it really established me in the space of the celebrity stylist who works with luxury brands. You also, why is that not working? Increases visibility. So I touched on that one to many and how important that is when it comes to growing your credibility, but also people learning about what it is that you do. So always looking for the opportunity to speak one to many, and it doesn't always have to be on a stage in front of 10, 20, 30 people. Build a personal connection. I think that's so important when it comes to your personal brand and humanizing it. Public speaking is great for that. Enhances brand recognition because you get then your style comes across, how you engage with people, why people want to come and hear or see and listen to you. Amazing for networking opportunities. I've lost count on the amount of times where people have engaged in the presentation, but the real connection has come afterwards when they said, "Do you know what? That has really landed with me." And then I've thought, "Do you know what? I need to maybe emphasize that point more, or I need to add that into a presentation." So there's so many learning opportunities through networking that you can bring into your content when it comes to why public speaking is good for your personal brand. It generates leads. It is a huge lead magnet for me, whether it's in person, whether it's online. It then takes someone from being a cold lead to a warmer lead because they've already understood or already established a rapport and a connection with you. And whether that's with your own audience or other audiences, I track all where my clients come from. And I remember really understanding this aspect of generating leads, where I went and did an event for a female networking group, and there was maybe 55 in the room. And by the end of the week, so everyone had booked in for a call that wanted to work with me, by the end of it had generated over 20,000 US dollars from speaking for free at an event. So this was a number of years ago, but it just gives you that opportunity to be able to generate, whether it's a lead in a direct sale in, or an email address, because you're offering something, and bring them into your mailing list. So maybe everything's not directly related to generating leads in a sale, but it could be to generate them into your mailing list. Boost your confidence and your communication skills. People always say to me, "Oh, Kelly, I'd love to be able to have the confidence like you do on stage." I have to tell you, but the first time I ever spoke on stage, it was not like this. It was not polished. And when people say practice makes perfect, no, because I'm still constantly learning. I'm still learning new skills to engage people in this day and age. So I would say it's a learning process, and I'm so happy to see so many of my clients on here as well. Showcases your personality. And this is where either the sales come from, this is where it leads to connections, and just an opportunity for you to inspire, whether that's inspiring people within the organization that you work for, inspiring people because you love what you do and you want to help them. It's an amazing platform to do this. So just some ideas on why it's so good. And I really do push for it being a strong strategy when it comes to building your personal brand. For those that I haven't met, or maybe not sure what is a personal brand, we recap here for you. It is ultimately, how do people feel when they come into contact with something you say or do? That perception, and how people feel when they come into contact with something you say or do could be for the first time on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And that's the first introduction to how you come across and um, how you communicate. And I take it a little bit more in more detail, that it's that amalgamation of your online and offline persona, that perception of others. So what you don't want is people for the first time go into your LinkedIn profile and it's like tumbleweed, or they go to Instagram and they can't connect with you, and or they can't find you online. If that's how they're coming in contact with you the first time. In person, well, it's much easier to be able to develop a rapport and a connection with someone. But that's your personal brand. How do you make people feel when they come into contact with something that you say or do? So what's my personal brand? For those that maybe I haven't met before, and have joined me for the very first time, hiya, nice to meet you. I've recently started with introducing hiya, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to join the dots. But a few months ago, yeah, the end of June, I got married. We had a big, fabulous celebration in Scotland, and my dad did the father of the bride speech. And I was a little bit nervous about what he was going to say, but it turned out so well. And he started with, everyone, here knows obviously Kelly and Graham. Kelly shares a lot of her life on social media, which is a very true description. And he said, so I'm not going to start there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back to the beginning. And I'm going to tell you what Kelly was like when she was little. And one of my earliest memories of Kelly and how she grew up, and her first words was, she never started with mummy, daddy, mama, papa, nothing like that. Kelly's first words were hiya. And what she would do, if we've got people that are not on mute, can you find mute, please? If you are not on mute, can you find mute? Super, thank you. What she would do is she would go to the end of the garden gate, and she would swing on the garden gate and shout hiya to every single neighbour that walked past. The problem was no one could see Kelly because she was so small, but they would just shout hiya. And I'm laughing at this, thinking, God, that is pretty much how I turn up at an event, how I invite people into my world of personal branding. It's very open, it's very friendly, and it made me think, do you know what? That is part of my personal brand, and I've been doing it at the back of the garden gate in Edinburgh since I was a wee child. So I thought, you know what? It was a nice story to bring in about the back piece of where and how and why I got into this. To fast forward it, because you don't need my long life story. My big transition for me was when I moved to the Middle East when I was 21. Got the Dubai bug of going, I want to start a business here because it is just so utterly exciting. And I did that at 24. Worked with celebrities, royalty, some incredible clients over the 15 years of having a celebrity styling agency. I, during that time, sold 2 businesses, an online wedding registrar. I launched a book during that time, and I sold the personal shopping and styling agency. So the business piece for me is what I love, but the brand building piece, I have been building since I was 19. And I only realized this when I looked back over the years, that I built my first website when I was 19. And that kind of brings me into an aspect of personal brand building. TEDx was a big tick box for me. I really wanted to do one, and after 2 years of setting that goal, it became it came to fruition, and just released another book. So I have it here, DC the Lemon, for those who don't have it. So that's a little bit why and how, the personal branding piece, and to take it a step further and for people to kind of go, okay, how does that fit into what I do? I offer, Magda, you see you there? I offer one-to-one personal brand strategy sessions with clients going through my elite program. I've got a group accelerator for those that are based all over the world and want to join in a group capacity. And I do a lot of keynote speaking, workshops with corporate companies. So there's my 3 different hats that I wear, depending on who wants help and support with their personal brand. To take that into personal branding and kind of how does this look? Because a lot of people, I've been doing a load of sales calls. So this month in August, I launched an ad campaign of connecting with new people, growing and scaling my business. Because scaling your business just on referrals, it can't work just on that when you've been 5+ years. Can we just turn on our mute, please? Yasmin, can you turn on? Thank you. So to bring in the piece of where and how with the personal branding, is the way I like to describe it is your personal brand is your marketing brand, and your invoicing brand in your business is your business. So for me, they run alongside. Brand You Creators is my business brand, and Kelly Lumberg is my marketing brand. And when it came to doing all these ads, I must have had about 50 sales calls in the past 3 weeks. And people really struggle to understand the difference between the personal brand and the business brand, understanding that you are part of your business. So that's understandable that there's major pieces that overlap. However, you might one day want to sell the assets of your business, which is what I did. So when I sold my styling business, that went to someone else, but I still had my personal brand, and I could still operate and evolve and move to the next level of what it was I wanted to offer. Many of our clients in corporate maybe want to move to board level, or they want to inspire more of the leadership team. So they are looking at building their personal brand within the organization. Your personal brand stays with you, your business doesn't. And I think that's also really important in an environment when you maybe live overseas. We've got people in South Africa, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. This might not be your home forever. Your business might not always be here, but your personal brand will be. So all the investment that you do in that is so, so, so important. Personal brand, business brand. We need both. So my enthusiasm of getting into that, what I've done over...
Hi, James, it's Jill Keane. How are you?
Hey, Jill. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Oh,
Is this
all
when
good,
people
thank
don't
you.
realise that they're...
Thanks for the call. I got your
they're on
message. All good for tomorrow. I have the invite. Thank you.
This is so
Yeah,
interesting.
and I'm just going to sit down this evening, do some prep around PIF and tennis,
Give me one
and I'll give you a
second so I
call.
can
I'll give you a call afterwards
turn
tomorrow.
this person off.
Amazing. Yeah, please do. That sounds great.
This has never happened before, but I'm actually finding it quite interesting.
No, I'm back in Dubai now. So I think I'm calling you from my Dubai.
Wow. All righty. So over the past 20 years, looking at personal brand building and where and how all the pieces tie together. Very, very quick overview. This is my formula. I've broken it down into 7 clear pillars. Now, when you're in the corporate capacity, you might not need all of these, but certainly as an entrepreneur or someone who's really wanting to take their personal brand to thought leadership, you need to consider every single one of these aspects. So we've got strategy, style, stationery, social media, spotlight, speaking, and standout. Today is not about the Brand You formula. I just wanted to give an overview of this aspect. We're going to go a bit deeper into speaking and how to bring it all together with storytelling. These are all crucial when it comes to brand building, but today is just bringing it down to the nuts and bolts on ideas on how you can develop the speaking side. So I've reduced this to, I think, 50% less, again, from a time perspective. I'm just super conscious. Where to speak. I want to give you some ideas. Take some notes. Industry conferences, local and international. You've got to be looking at where your peers are speaking. They don't need to be in the same industry, but where are they speaking? So today, one of the exercises I did was I was looking at people that were on a similar space to me in the US. I was looking at their speaking schedule. I then listed all the places that they were speaking at, not necessarily to speak at now, but when it comes to speaking opportunities on an international perspective, they need to be booked in 6-12 months in advance, or looking at something local here. Trade shows, corporate seminars, is there companies that you want to work with? One of the things I love doing with clients is making a dream list of companies that you want to work for or work with and targeting them strategically. If you want to be proactive at putting yourself out as an international speaker or a thought leader or someone who is an expert, they don't always come to you. You need to go out and have a little look at them. Universities and colleges, great place to practice. But also for me, I love going back to schools and giving back, because I so wish that at my school, someone had come to me and talked to me that Edinburgh wasn't going to be my future forever and that there was exciting places to travel to. I'd have loved that. Thankfully, I found out quite early on that I could travel so much, but what can you do to give back? Professional associations, whether that's business groups, which I've spoken at many times, chambers of commerce, networking events groups. I talked about one of those and how that generated over $20,000, not-for-profit centers, podcasts. When you're speaking, it's not always to a stage in front of you. It could be to 10,000 people on a YouTube channel because it's pre-recorded as a podcast. Webinars, masterclasses like this, radio shows. One of my last radio shows, I did a connection with HSBC came through that, and that led to another lead. TV interviews. I picked up a client from Dubai One of TV interviews last year. We talked about YouTube channel, virtual conferences, social media live sessions. Mags, I know that you've really enjoyed doing LinkedIn, live LinkedIns, and they've worked as a really good growth strategy for you. Excellent situation to be in. And then I picked this one here because it was one of my big goals, and I think it's a massive credibility booster if you can get a TEDx under your belt as well. So there's a few. Take these as headings, and then underneath that think, okay, where else can I go out? How can you be proactive in this space here? Why don't people like public speaking? Well, I kind of think we touched on that there, and it was some really good points in terms of forgetting content, not sure what to say. A lot of the stuff is in your head, and I think that's a really mindset shift that needs to move on going, no one knows what you're going to say next. But the key piece that I really do feel is the scares, not knowing what to say, lacking confidence, is how do we get better at this? Scared, we're going to forget. I'm going to give you a tool for that as well. Don't know what to say. That's going to come closely aligned with the UPBS. And lacking confidence is practice. 4 times a month, a speaking mentor that I worked with told me that I need to be doing, and I never forgot that. So this was maybe 10 years ago. She said, if you really want to be seen as a paid speaker, difference, by the way, between being a paid international speaker and a business owner who goes in and speaks for free. I'll just touch on that point there. When you're starting your business or you're building your visibility, a huge part of what you do might be that you speak for free so that you can then get leads in. And there's still a few places that I do that if I know it's a good audience or if I know that it's my target audience. But what you don't want to be doing is, I see it a lot, is they go from, I'm always speaking for free because companies come to me and go, you can promote your business. But quite often, if you're going into companies, it doesn't always lead to clients. So you need to position yourself as an international speaker different from someone who's going in and promoting business, if that makes sense. Any questions on that, by the way, pop into the chat box. So what are some of the things that we're going to talk about? Because then people go, I don't really have anything interesting to say. What kind of things can we actually talk about when it comes to public speaking? So naturally people go, well, we can talk about our niche. Absolutely. Experts and your expertise and skills. So for me, an area of personal branding is public speaking and storytelling. That's what I'm talking about today. There's a number of different areas that I can talk about too. What can you do? Maybe for an organization, it might be your journey and background. So probably one of my very first speaking events back in, I'd probably say around 2006, 2007, I was invited to speak at the World Trade Center. It was all very exciting. And this organization said, we would love for you to talk about your business journey to date. I was one of the few kind of female entrepreneurs kind of over 20 odd years ago that was visible with what it was I was doing. And to be fair, still in business now. And I shared my experience, but here's the thing. I was so nervous at the time of doing this because I was up against, I say up against, but I was speaking alongside would be a better description, Michael Leali of Property Finder. And in my eyes, he was up here. He had this like huge business that was turning over millions and millions. And here's me going, well, I just started a personal styling and shopping agency 3 years ago. But the difference between the presentation was it was huge. And the reason being that Michael went in very kind of, this is what I do, this is my business, and that was it. He told no story. And I stood up and I said, because it was talking about your journey and background, my journey for starting my business, and this is true, I wished I had it, honestly started on the back of a napkin. And for those that have lived in the Middle East and in Dubai in particular long enough, there was a particular bar called Left Bank. And honestly, I had this napkin and I had all these notes of my first business that I wanted to start. And I held this up. So that was my kind of story through that whole piece. I didn't talk about how to hire me as a stylist. It was nothing to do with that. At the end of the event, I had a queue of people coming up to tell me that they all had a napkin idea and they wanted to share their napkin idea with me. And then they said, and can you tell me a little bit more about how you can work with me and how, you can help me with my style? So your journey and background, the whole thing about public speaking, it doesn't always need to be about your business, and less sometimes the better. It could be about your personal and professional growth. It could be about the impact and contributions that you do outside, what people know about you, whether that's giving back, is that supporting children because that's connected to what it is that you're doing, or future aspirations. One of the things that I talked about a lot 7 years ago was that I wanted to do a TEDx talk. And because I told people I wanted to do a TEDx talk, someone contacted me to say, would you like to do a TEDx talk? So there's some of the ideas in terms of how and what that you can talk about. Now, 2, tick the box of when it comes to Kelly, what do I do? I'm worried that people are going to forget about, or I'm worried that I'm going to forget about what it is that I'm going to say. One of the best ways to be seen as an expert, someone who's credible in their field, is to create their own UPBS. So what is a UPBS? It is a unique personal branded system or solution. So you can see there that systems make things simple. It's a methodology, it's a framework, and it gives an audience, organizer, corporate companies just something real that they can understand the work that you do and the results they get. And again, having a UPBS has resulted in clear business. I can remember one organization that I spoke with. I remember having the conversation with them thinking, I'm not sure I'm right for this. And when I went through what they would get at the end of it, they said, this is utterly perfect. We'd like to hire you. And there was no more discussion. So for me, having a UPBS means that when I go back to my 7 pillars or my 7 slices in the book, I don't get lost. I remember exactly, okay, I can talk about strategy, I can talk about style, I can talk about stationery, social, spotlight, speaking, and how to stand out. And all of them go within that UPBS. It gives me content for my social media. And it's one of the things that I absolutely love doing with clients. And you're going to see some fab examples of these as well. It gives consistency and clarity, professionals and credibility. Listen, in nowadays space, it's really hard for you to be doing something that no one else is doing. Is there other people doing personal branding? Absolutely. But what I've got is a formula. What I have is a book. I talk about that through that, so it gives the professionalism credibility. But the other aspect is it also gives flexibility and adaptability. And what do I mean by that? Is I touched on that there was 7 pillars if you're an entrepreneur you really need to consider. However, in some corporate organizations, when I go and speak to a room of 20 people that are maybe C-suite, that are maybe not at the leadership stage yet, I don't bring in and confuse them with, this is how you should be getting into the spotlight and getting magazine articles. It's maybe irrelevant for them at that stage in their journey. They don't need stationery and collateral because they have all of that for the business that they work for. Maybe they're not going to go and be a speaker, and maybe they don't want to be on the leadership program. So that's where flexibility and adaptability really help when you've got a framework as well. So this is mine. You can see it here, the strategy stationery social. We've got this as a PDF. We send it out as an attachment in kind of corporate spaces. It just looks professional and it looks legit. And that's what you want to create. If you're going speaking, I'm going to dive into the professional aspect down the line, but you want there to be consistency in all your collaterals for people to go, yeah, I'm going to pay this person to come and speak because I know the perception of what I'm going to get is really important. But here's the thing, the secret to monetizing your speaking career, I really believe comes down to 3 things. So we've got individuality, so your personal brand, so being able to create your own UPBS. I believe the next stage, honestly, is creating your collaterals, and we're going to talk about that as well. And the third one is telling people that you're charging and being able to tell stories and tell people. And this is the thing that people are so scared about, going, do you know what? I'm too scared to talk about how I can monetize through speaking. And I've put these figures in here because I know that these are all things that clients, myself, people that I've worked with are getting paid. So it's not I plucked this out of the sky, or this is not an invoice that's come in. This is all true to form. So let me dive into show you some of our clients here. So we've got Adele. We worked on hers, and everything about Adele wanted to create, which I love because it kind of goes with the ease, the abundance, and it just, after one session, it came so naturally that then she brought this into her sales pitch, and she messaged me and she's like, yeah, I've just been able to sign clients. It's so much easier with a UPBS on actually bringing it into client conversation as well. Magda, yours, absolutely love it. And I know that you have created so much around your UPBS and how much inspiration it gives other people that are starting out on this journey, where they can take their solution or their framework. So absolutely love it. Agnes, we came down to the 3Ms for her: movement, mindset, and macros. Her was the 3M methodology. She goes into corporate organizations and talks about how this can make a 360 circle change in people's overall lifestyle. I'm getting this right, knowing everyone. Lucy, some of you may know, she talks a lot about her 5 levers to grow your business. She's got a great presentation, and she does this monthly in her business, and it's a great lead generator for her as well. Dr. Kirsten, she has the Spark framework. She's just used this in one of our events. I'm not sure if she's joined today, actually, but she used this in a recent event in Hamburg. I think she did it in Germany. So there's so many different ways for you to look at how can you narrow down. And in my live sessions and when I'm with clients, we actually work out what is the problem that you're going to solve, and then how do you bring that in. But again, today I've got a lot I wanted to bring down in such a short space of time. So the biggest mistakes that people make, honestly, is I feel that they're trying to pitch themselves out, but they don't have all their assets in place. So what do I mean by their assets? They're trying to pitch themselves out as a speaker, but they've only got a business website. They don't have a one-page speaker bio. So one-page speaker sheet. I actually just got this printed, so I made it smaller and laminated it so people could see and go, okay, what does it actually look like? Cue cards, just tiny little touches to elevate, your personal brand. A speaker kit, a media kit. These are all things that you can send to people when they go, actually, this person, I have the perception that this person is really serious about what it is that they're actually doing. The other thing that I really feel that people miss out on is they don't tell stories. And I think this is the glue, honestly, now in the past 5 years, that holds everything together when it comes to humanizing your personal brand. So why tell stories? The goal is that you want to stand out and you want to be memorable. You want to be memorable for the right reasons too. And storytelling really helps with that. It leaves a great first impression. It helps build trust. People can connect with you. You can inspire and influence other people around you. If I was to ask the majority of the people on this presentation today, they would go, I want to help people. I want to inspire people. I want to share a message. And that's what telling stories with your personal brand allows you to do. Adds authenticity to your brand. And for me, the biggest part is it humanizes your personal brand by showing the person behind it. So whether that's on social media, whether that's speaking at events, or whether that's networking, where can you bring in a story or have a couple of stories up your sleeve that this is something that can resonate with people? It creates a connection with your audience. So shared experiences, these stories can really help people create a bond and make them feel understood or valued. And it's quite interesting. I put the fitness one up there. Fitness for me is just part of my lifestyle now. And it's a huge part of what I share, mostly on stories, because it's how I show up as the best version. It's how I give the most energy. It's how I stay inspired myself to do it. The amount of people that message me and go, I saw your post this morning and it's made me go to the gym. That's a massive tick for me. It's not my industry that I'm in. I am not a PT. I have no intentions of ever being one, but I love bringing the value of health and well-being and fitness as an entrepreneur to other people. So that's shared experiences. And I think a huge piece of empathy that those that are watching you, whether that's on social, whether they're standing there, they can kind of step into your shoes, and it strengthens relationships. I remember sharing a post last year about, how so much can change in a year, and thinking back to, going through a divorce and everything that I'd been to. So many people messaged me saying, oh, wow, I didn't know about the whole journey, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, and this is what I'm going through. Stories allow you to strengthen the connections with the people that are following you, that eventually then they can become clients. Not everyone does, but that's okay. I want to see that this is the first time I put this slide in. So I just want to see if this works, right? I'm absolutely loving the questions, so I'm going to come back with some of these as well. In the personal branding space, it's not used enough. Even with your team of 80 trainers, it's just not used, and people really don't understand it. So how can you simplify it maybe a little bit for people to go, okay, how is it relevant to them and what it is they do?
So firstly, it is not new. It's been around for over 30,000 years, storytelling. And so it goes way back to cavemen and women when they first sat around a fire. The world's changed so much, but one thing hasn't changed much at all, and that's our brains. So our brains are still wired to absorb information in a story format. Mm. When you explore and do interjects, I'll go off on passion here with you about storytelling. How do they make a difference? Well, some research from Stanford looked at this, like how much more memorable is the stuff that you share, whether that's your personal brand, your information about your product or service, when you tell a story. And they found that it was up to 22 times more memorable. So not just twice, it's memorable.
So that was Gian, who was actually on my podcast. If you want to go and listen to the whole episode, it's on YouTube. He's actually on Emirates. And if anyone's traveling on Emirates anytime soon, he's got a like in-flight learning session on public speaking and storytelling. Not public speaking, sorry, that's what we were on, just specifically storytelling. So I wanted to add that in there as well. So what is a story? Let's kind of hone in this aspect here. A story is something specifically that happens to you, not a company. So it's personal. It doesn't have to be personal as in, divorce or tragedy if you don't want it to be, or something that's deeply sad for you. It can just be a collection of events. It can be an interesting conversation that happened, but the goal is to either entertain, inform, or inspire. So what I'd love for you to do right now is just have a little think of a story that I've told in the past 40 minutes. Is there one that sticks in your mind that you've told, that you've remembered? I've told maybe 3 or 4 stories actually. What resonated with you, or what have you remembered? Just type in the box. Got some really good questions, by the way, so I'm going to come back and answer those. Hiya and the garden gate, the Hiya story, the napkin. Yeah, absolutely. The napkin story. Hiya. Brilliant. Okay, cool. So we want to entertain, we want to inspire, and we want to inform. So there's a number of different ways that we would, or why one would tell a story. How to use storytelling in personal brand building. So some of the things that you can think about in that, you've got career journey, personal challenges, success stories, learning experiences, vision and goals, which we kind of touched on in that aspect there. How long do you think a story needs to be? I thought this was a really interesting but clear time frame for you to get better at telling stories. So how long do you think? 60 to 90 seconds? What else we got? 30 seconds, 3 minutes max. Okay, so Rachel, 30 seconds is probably where most comedians can do it. I'm not entirely sure. You have to be so good to be able to get a beginning, a middle, and an end out of that. Generally speaking, you want no more than 3 minutes. If you can look at 1 minute to 3 minutes to get that story in, it's really crucial. But practice, and if you can get a couple of really good stories in under 1 minute that've got a key point, then awesome, well done. Okay, so what I would love for you to do right now is think of one experience from any of the examples that I shared there. If you need me to go back to the slide, I can do. I just want you to jot down something. I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to write something down, and then we're going to go into the next exercise. And what I would do with this in person is we take it deeper. Someone gets up, they actually do the story, and then I give them feedback and they come back and do redo the story. And oh my goodness, seeing this in person is utterly spectacular, because the framework I'm going to give you afterwards is going to be game changing in how you deliver this story. So let me give you another 1.5 minutes to write some notes down about a story based on those 5 options, or the 5 areas, whether it's your career, your journey, public vision, your expertise. What are you going to write down? This is where I feel, normally when I do this, I have some music and it feels really inspiring. Now we've just got deathly silence here. So I'll just give you another 30 seconds. This is kind of homework for you to go away and work with. And I said, it's the first time I've done this in online session where it's much harder to be able to give feedback because there's a group of people. Next time I could maybe look at taking one person to tell the story. Could work actually. This is all learning. I love this. I think what I'll do next time is actually take one person to tell the story and then help them improve that. It'll also test me in doing it in an online setting. Okay, so we've got one experience, we write it out. So you've got the idea of maybe one story that you're going to tell. How can we make this better? So here's the secret. Now, when it comes to storytelling, there is the 9-step formula, the 12-step formula, like there's loads. If you ever watch a movie, you'll know that it goes down and it goes up and it goes down and there's a go up and there's all these parts to it. Using this framework, I've found has been the easiest to get it under 3 minutes and for you to remember. Context, challenge, how did you confront it, and consequence. What was the consequence? So let's kind of break this down. So the context is set in a situation of last month, back in 2015, it was. So if you think about the story that I said about Haya, I said a few months ago, it was my wedding. So I gave you the context that you were like, oh, okay, so it's a bit more recent. The main character, what did they want? What were they excited about? What were they scared of? So if we're talking about the Haya story, you knew it was a few months ago. The main character was me. I was really nervous that my dad was going to do the father of the bride speech because I had no idea what he was going to say. And him being super proud, loved obviously the moment of standing up there and doing it. So that gives you the perspective of who's in it. It's Kelly, it's her dad. She's scared, she's worried what she's going to say. And then this is how it goes. So the context. Then you go into the challenge. So the difficult decision, the problem, the uncertainty, the struggle. So because I was kind of telling the story there, that wasn't there wasn't so much. The difficult decision, problem, or uncertainty was what was my dad going to say? Okay. Was he going to come out with something that was really inappropriate? Because dads kind of have a habit of doing that. So that would have been kind of the main piece in that. These are other stories that I've told in storytelling events and stuff. How did you confront it? So how did the character confront the challenge, the reactions, the decision? So for me in this aspect, it was, for me, the confrontation was, I sat there and listened to that and thought, this is kind of me. I'm meant to be in personal branding. I'm really happy that he's gone down this route and told this story. And he's kind of told other ones as well. In other situations, it might be, you know, what did you do? How did you overcome that? I shared a story about kind of my first ever opportunity in PR. And, you know, for me, the decision I made was I decided to take my own photographs and I tell this whole story. So how did you confront that? I'm going to give you an example of how you can do this online as well. And you'll see it all in action. And then the consequence is, how does the story turn out? What was the result? Again, this is another story I've told in the past, but for me, I was really happy. I loved at the end of it. And now the consequence was I now use that in all of my presentations. It's how I start. It's, you know, gives people a connection that, hey, I'm from Scotland, and that without me actually saying it. Or I start a lot of my emails with that now. Because that's personal and it's personal branded to me. A little bit like one of my other clients, he's got a Dr. Corey Block. He ends all his emails with "Love Corey" because his book is called Love at Work. So the consequence, so I want you to have a little look in this, your story that you've told, how would you put each of the aspects into your story? And let me share with you how Barbara, who was one of my clients, did exactly this in a LinkedIn post trying to find a job. So this was a strategy that we used when we wanted to really focus on her personal brand and getting a new job a couple of years ago.
Over 3 months ago, I lost a job. Since then, I received a lot of emails like that. So now I decided a little bit different approach. I created this website, hirebarbara.com. Without even downloading my CV, you can see my main achievements and what I'm all about. So if you're looking for a creative employee like me, get in touch.
Love it. I love, love, love sharing this. For those that maybe haven't seen my presentation before, how many views do you think that video got on LinkedIn? Have a little type in the box and I'll come in and have a little look. So if we were to go back and look, if we were to talk about the context, over 3 months ago, I lost my job. So when she started that, come in here. So context from watching it. Over 3 months ago, I lost my job. And that was setting the scene. She goes into a little bit more detail. The challenge was for her, I just kept getting rejection letter after rejection letter. Like I was really tired of this. So how did she confront it? Barbara decided to create this website, hirebarbara.com. And the consequence is, I'll tell you what happened because we were not able to finish that because that was a post that was going out. So to look at what you've written down, we had 20K, 500K, 200K. You're all low bowling. To 4.6 million. So she ended up with 60 job opportunities. Now, when I say opportunities, there were coffees, there were connections. It just created massive momentum for her personal brand, and she ended up getting a job out of it. So that was the consequence, and I'm filling that in to tell you the end of that story so we can tie it up in a bow. So that is where and how you can also tell stories in a space of online, or you can do it in person by using the story framework. So what you can go away and do is rewrite your story with the structure. So you have Magda on Monday in our group program, you'll have the chance to, let me just find someone else who has not muted themselves. Here we go. You'll have the chance to practice that story or whichever story it is you want to work with. I remember listening to, I don't know if anyone's a Tony Robbins fan, but I've listened to him for a long time over the years. He tells a lot of the same stories now. And I think people do get scared that they can't keep telling the same stories. But remember, your audience is different. It lands differently a second or third time. So there will be key stories that you will tell over and over and over again. And you know what? They'll get better and better and better. Because we can go into so much more detail of bringing in the 5 senses when it comes to storytelling. But that's taking it to a more advanced level. Let's work on the 4C, again, using a framework to create your story structure when it comes to presentations. So that can be something for you to work on. Where else can you add stories? Bio on LinkedIn. So I've shared a story on that for me. Bio on LinkedIn should be in first person, not third person, and make it really easy for people to be able to connect with you. Social media posts, email communication, really great way. Get me started on email communications when people start their email with, "Hi, I hope you're well." That is not communicating a story with anyone. That's just lazy writing. So to kind of bring it up, I want to go back and answer the couple of questions because they were actually really, really good questions. If there's anything in the, if there's any questions you want to ask, type away. What's one thing that you're going to action from today's kind of micro class in public speaking and storytelling? Tell me in the chat box, what's one thing you're going to do? And if anyone would like to know more, then here's your chance to book in for a call with me. I will say spots are limited for the next 2 weeks because I'm off on a girls' holiday, and the diary is a little jam-packed. So if you're wanting to book in for a call, I'd suggest you click that and book it in now. I have a couple of you actually booked in this week. Okay, so let me come back to... Let me go back to that, sorry, that slide, because I want to read. Okay, I want to read the questions. So there was a couple of questions here. While you're typing away and telling me one action that you're going to take, okay, so we had one here. What are your recommendations from going to being asked to speak without a fee and becoming a paid, highly sought after speaker? Okay, so do you know one of the things that I will do, and I started doing this maybe 4 years ago, it's just cutting to the chase quite early on, was, do you have a budget? And I would ask that question in an email because I made a very silly mistake once, where I actually got on a call with a company thinking that they had a budget, and it was PwC, by the way. And I thought that there was definitely a budget there, and so I didn't ask that question. And I went on and they said, yeah, we have a budget and it's 600 dirhams. I said, well, that's not an option. And I'd wasted half an hour of my time. So I think being really clear and setting the expectations to begin with is really important. I think having all the collateral is a huge piece. So you want, your speaker kit, your media kit, your website, your bio, like all of that, so it looks the part as well. Know your speaking fees, know the minimum that you would walk away from. How much do you want that? And know, do you know what? This is it. People will pay it. They really will. It's a mindset shift. I remember what I wanted to show you. Was I found one of my vision boards. It's actually in the other room, and on it was $5,000. And I wanted to show you this because it was like 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, that would be a dream, and now there's corporate opportunities coming in at 10 and 15. So 20 depends on, how long and what it is that you're doing. So I think it's really important to set that goal. And I think that kind of highlights that point that it's a mindset. No, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it for free. So bear that in mind. Can you give any tips of what to do when you start to feel your audience is disinterested in your talk? This is a great question. I have to say I haven't experienced it. The one thing that I find quite challenging is looking at body language, and your body language will tend to mirror or how you're coming across. So for example, maybe it's better to describe this, is if I see people in a presentation and they're kind of like this, corporates quite often like this, they're like, why am I here? Until they get into telling stories. But I will look at them, but I will do very open hand gestures to open up the dialogue, and they'll mirror that back, and they tend to change that as well. I ask questions as well. I'll ask an individual a question to bring it in so they feel part of it. Telling stories is another way as well. If you feel them starting to go, what is it that they're starting to go with? Is it that, you've maybe, I haven't even had the chance today to go into it, but in person, one of the things that I talk about massively is vocal image. So when we've got style, we've got visual style, we've got vocal image, vocal style, and non-verbal. And there's ways that you can engage with people in that as well. Let me know if that's helped you on that front. And I'm just scrolling back down. So practical things that people are going to do. I think it's great to share these because it might inspire someone. Change LinkedIn bio, create media and speaking kit. Awesome. Think up a story and update my LinkedIn bio, create a media kit. Awesome. I'll review my current stories and how I can refine them. Okay, great tip for you. Got a few more minutes. On your phone, open your notes app, Story Bank. And for the next 7 days, at the end of every night, I want you to write down one story or type in one story that's happened throughout the day. We just forget them. When we go to bed, we recap or reset, I should say, and we kind of forget about things. So start collecting a bank of stories and then get better at refining that process and how you can incorporate that into your storytelling on social media or your storytelling in presentations. For me, when I get really inspired is either at 30,000 feet in the shower, or I'm really inspired to often walking back from the gym. I have a 20-25 minute walk. So I've always got my phone out. I'm listening to something, and then I actually start typing things down there. Oh, that's a great story. I'm really like the adrenaline's going from having a workout, which is why it's so important I do that. So that could be something for you as well. Okay, we've got some other aspects in here. Creating a UPBS, yeah, Julie, for you, that's really important. One-page speaker bio, one-page speaker sheet on Just LinkedIn. Giovanni, I did actually look at yours and I saw that. Create a brand bio. So is that a personal brand bio? I think you need to maybe let me know more on that one. Define personal brand and amend LinkedIn. Awesome. Relook at my strategy for building my personal brand alongside my business. It's huge. Thank you, Kelly. It's so true about putting the back yourself, put your fees out there, imposter syndrome. Absolutely. And we've all been there. But the day you decide, it's very empowering, and don't be afraid to walk away from that. Like there's been times when like PwC, like, oh, great, could look great. No, I'm not. For me at this stage of my career, when I've been doing it for the past 20 years, no way. I'm not speaking for 600 dirhams. Okay, I've got time for one more question if you have. If anyone's booked in for the call, fabulous. I'll check that as soon as the session's finished. I'd love to know your thoughts. That was super fast. There was so much more that I wanted to put into it, but you've got some really key points. I love that you've written down what it is that you're going to work on. So I know that you've got at least one piece of value there. So but I see you at the travel counselors because I'm speaking there. So I'm super excited. Oh, Frankie, great to see you or see you virtually. You are welcome, Magda. You're such an action taker. I love it. Glad that you found it super helpful, that you've maybe not considered it before. Practice the notes with the story bank is huge. I love it. Plenty of actionable steps. So that's it for me. Over and out. Good night, everyone. I look forward to speaking to those who are maybe not clients yet or who want to learn a little bit more. Big kiss to you all. Good luck, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.